United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Oops. Well, welcome. It's pleasant to see the crowd here tonight. We generally don't have that many in attendance, so thank you for attending. The public is part of our population that we serve, so thank you for coming. First item of business is approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any question about the minutes? Does anybody have any remarks? Seeing none, those in favor,
Aye.
please so signify. Unanimous. Informational reports. James, do we have any?
Under the section, we are just giving the commissioners an update through 3 quarters of the budget year. Teresa has a quick presentation.
So it's 3 quarters in a month, so we included April where March wasn't included in the last one because I had missed the meeting. And so that would bring us at the 83.3% of it used through the year. And we look like we're trending great on all of the expenses. And so with the little bit of the expenses that we've gone over, we're over a little bit on some of the revenue. So we expect it to be a break-even year. And I don't see anything out of the ordinary jumping out or anything to be concerned about for the 2 months that we've got left out of the year. So.
Good. Is there any questions of?
Just a comment. Excellent. That's good to hear that. Good news. Thank you.
Right, you're welcome.
Yeah, I have a quick comment, too.
Sure.
Is the newbie. Thank you for all the work you do on the budget. I know it's not easy to put together these budgets, so I just want to let you know I appreciate that. And thanks for what you've done.
It's great to do it with Alex as well.
Moving on. Comments from the public. The public will be, is invited to, at this point, to speak to us. There is a 3-minute time limit, which we keep a timer going on it, and at the end of 3 minutes, we ask that you please end what you're speaking about and let somebody else come forward. If you do not, we will adjourn the meeting for the moment. Is there anybody that wishes to speak to us?
Thank you very much, Commissioners. My name is Todd Creech, and I live at 1917 Washington Avenue here in Portland. I went to Gray and Gloucester High School, so I've been in Cumberland County for a long time. You can judge quite a long time. And very happy to be here today. Probably a lot of you don't know us, and a lot of us don't know you, so this is kind of an introduction. So I think we should always approach these sort of things with good faith. And you folks are doing some of the hard, often thankless work of keeping the county together, so thank you for all that work. I think many of us here tonight, although I don't want to speak for everybody, are here because our country is facing an incredible crisis. I work, although I'm not speaking for tonight, I'm speaking personally, I work in the Multicultural Center, the Multilingual Center in the Portland Public Schools. So I work with the 50 to 60% of our students and families who are new Mainers or of that ancestry. My grandfather and his family came from Quebec, and my grandfather spoke French until he was 16. He didn't learn English till he was in high school. And then he eventually learned enough English to volunteer for World War II and was a scout in Normandy fighting the Nazis. So I think that kind of brings us full circle to what's happening in the country today, which is that we have a government that has put its finger on black and brown people, especially if they have accents, especially if they don't speak English, and they have sent 2 Gestapos out to try to find them and hunt them down for no reason at all. We have students that I know personally, that I'm working with, who are afraid to go to school. We have parents who are sitting in ICE facilities who are in deportation processes right now. And you didn't sign up for this. That's probably not what it said on the county commissioner job description. But nonetheless, we have a reality today that we must all face forcefully. And that is this, that we have an administration that has decided that it is open season on immigrants. I'm looking at some of the names of the folks who are county commissioners, and I'm sure many people here. Many people have grandparents and grandparents who came from somewhere else. And they were not hunted in their homes, in their workplaces, in their neighborhoods by people with masks and automatic weapons, dragged into vans with no judicial warrants, only specifically ICE warrants. This is a government agency which is out of control, and what I think many of us are here today to do is to ask you to stand up and do the difficult thing, but do the right thing, to say that our county, Cumberland County, will not participate in this roundup of innocent people, of hardworking people, people who actually make our city and our state possible. We will not participate. So if we have a contract with the Cumberland County Jail to serve as the mechanism through which ICE and the Border Patrol are detaining and abducting parents and children and sending them into really hell on earth, we will not allow that. We will stand up and find a way, and it's always going to be a technical question. Where am I at time? That's it. So I thank you for your time, and I hope that you listen tonight and you find a way to do the right thing.
Next, yes.
Thank you, esteemed commissioners. My name is Grayson Luckner. I'm a State House representative here in Portland, and I'm here today to echo some of the sentiments that you heard from previous speaker. Today we heard at the State House several bills aimed to do similar things at the state level, and I'm just going to modify some of my testimony that I gave in favor of those two pieces of legislation for you here this evening. Maine is a state built by immigrants, from the Franco-American workers who powered our mills to the Somali, Congolese, and Angolan families revitalizing our towns today. They are our neighbors, co-workers, and small business owners in our communities. They strengthen our towns and neighborhoods. And right now, our state and county resources could be used to tear these families apart, and history warns us where that path leads. The Oxford Handbook on Genocide Studies identifies mass deportations as a key tool of ethnic cleansing. When local police become entangled in federal immigration enforcement, it erodes trust, fuels racial profiling, and normalizes the surveillance and removal of vulnerable people. History will judge us, not on budgetary constraints, but on whether we stood by as Mainers and as our Maine neighbors were targeted for deportation, or whether we said not in our name or with our resources. Maine law enforcement and county law enforcement should focus on public safety, not on boogeymen and scapegoats. So while we need to protect due process here in the state, and unfortunately what's happening federally is our state and local resources are being co-opted to circumvent due process considerations. Immigrants are being targeted into our jails, and they're moved here with the intent so that they can, their families and their legal representation aren't aware of where they are. So I don't believe our county should be complicit in that, and I want to make sure that
20 seconds.
Thank you for that. I'll wrap up here. So, it's a big national moment. You all are tasked with, just as I am at the state level, tasked with deciding what's right for our county. And I hope that you agree that we should do better than to cooperate with these mass deportation efforts. Thank you.
Time.
My name is Greg White. I'm a resident of Lisbon Falls, it's Androscoggin County, but I live in Portland. I lived in Portland for 5 years, and many of my friends still live in Cumberland County. I'm here tonight because I want the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department and all local police to immediately cease their cooperation with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, U.S. Marshals, and any and all organizations that are engaged in this major detention program that has escalated in recent months. I imagine some of you are horrified, as I am, at what is happening right in front of us. And I ask that you use your power as it is as county commissioners to do what you can to pressure other public officials into doing the right thing. Be a leader in this critical moment. I'd like to have our community focus on, affordable housing, environmental protection, education, and healthcare. These are the things that my community care about. And we also care about our neighbors who've come here for opportunities that they may not have had from where they've come from. My ancestors did the same. Your ancestors did the same if you are white. And I ask again, do what you can, be the voice of the people. We demand that Cumberland County Sheriff's Department immediately end its cooperation engagement in this xenophobic, racist, and anti-worker program of mass detention. Thank you.
My name's Benny Steibel. I live and work here in Portland, but I'm not from here. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. A number of years ago, my family came here to get away from the poverty, the crime, the violence that more or less defines my hometown. Matter of fact, you could say we came here as refugees, much like many of the immigrants that ICE is now harassing. So the question I have to ask is, what's so different and special about me that I can be safe as someone who's not from here and they can't? And I know I'm comparing myself to immigrants, and really that's not a fair comparison, because while I will happily contribute my efforts, my labor to this community, immigrants can contribute so much more. When someone from another country comes here, they contribute their linguistic traditions, their storytelling, their music, their art, their cuisine, their philosophy. What they bring is immeasurable. And to decide against letting them in and letting them contribute is just the epitome of foolishness. Thank you for your time.
Hi, and thank you for doing the hard work that you do here. My name's Nancy Markowitz. I live in Portland, here in Portland. And I'm here because I got a call over the weekend that a friend of mine who's an immigrant, asylum seeker, was picked up by ICE. They pulled him over outside of King Middle School on Deering Ave there, and just pulled him over, pulled him out of the car, didn't ask for any identification, any of his paperwork. He's a man from Republic of Congo, and who's in the asylum process. He's legally here. He has no criminal record, nothing. They took him away. They left the car there with the keys in it, his wallet, all his paperwork. And I got a call, could I, come help? Somebody else took his car to a safe place. And then when they were heading back home, ICE followed him and picked the second person up. And on Riverside Drive, right near Seaport Credit Union, took him out of the car, left his keys there, all his paperwork, his wallet, everything. And then I got a second call and said, none of us immigrants can go get that car. We're afraid. We're not leaving our home. And so I went and picked up the car and brought it to a safe place. Both men were taken to Stafford Detention Center in New Hampshire. That's where they are now. I have to say, we live in a wonderful community. People have rallied. We set up a commissary for them already. We hopefully have lawyers for them. ILAP is, who is, the Immigrant Legal Advocacy, stepped right up. Everybody is rallying around. It's just unbelievable, and it's outrageous that we live in a time now where people are just plucked out of their cars, and then we let this happen. I don't know what you can do, but however you can speak out. I've called Shelley Pingree and Angus King and Susan Collins to let them know. I have a call into the governor. I think it's a statewide issue that we just have to figure out how to get ICE out of our state and not let them do that, what they're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
for your time.
My name is Dorothy Blanchette. I run a large food pantry in Cumberland County, and I do work with a lot of immigrants. I can hardly reach this microphone. I see the fear in these immigrants' faces all the time, and I also know that the sheriff does not have to participate in this. This is a voluntary effort on his part. He does not have to arrest these people, and we do not have to allow them in the state. They have to have warrants, and they're not coming with warrants, and they're supposed to do due process, and they are not doing that. If there's anything you can do, you need to stop this process because it is illegal. Our federal government is doing illegal work all the time. If you watch the news at all, you'd know that they're not following laws, and they're not obeying even the Supreme Court. So it's time that we put a stop to it. If we can't put a stop to it nationally, we can at least put a stop to it in Cumberland County. I have many of the immigrants work in special jobs that need their skills, and we need them here, and we do not need them in prison. Thank you.
My name is Jo Trafford. I live on Stone Ledge Drive in Portland. I don't know who you all are. This is the first time I've been to a meeting like this, so I don't even really know what you all do. But I am here because action, doing something, is important. Each of you, I'm assuming, are a citizen of this country. And each of you, I'm assuming, know about the parameters of our Constitution. The Constitution says that due process is to be given to all persons. It does not specify criminal. It does not specify citizen. It says persons. So what is happening today in our town, in our neighborhoods, in our country is deplorable. We cannot, as citizens of this country, sit by and do nothing. I have no power except for to come here and to speak my mind, to go on the streets and speak my mind. Perhaps you do, to talk to the right people and pressure the right people. I write and call my members of Congress a lot, and I tell them they need to make noise, because in the noise is the pressure for change. And where we are right now, in this environment, is not the America that I was born into 73 years ago. It is not. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know which one of you are MAGA. I don't know which one of you are progressive liberals. I don't know. But all of you are human beings. All of you should care about the other human beings that are out there. To a 2022, I registered people to vote. And I went around with a man from, I can never remember, but anyway, he was a man from Africa. And he had knocked on 2,000 doors in 2022. 2,000 doors saying, are you registered to vote? Are you a citizen? What can I help you register to vote? Over and over and over again. And I had the privilege of walking side by side with this man from a country in Africa and registering people to vote. That's what this country is about. These arrests that are happening on our streets.
20 seconds.
Thank you. That is not the United States of America. And as Americans, you must stand up for these people.
Hi, my name's Katie Riley. I am a healthcare provider. I live in the Back Cove. I work for a healthcare nonprofit. And in my day-to-day work as a healthcare provider, I take care of a lot of New Mainers and a lot of marginalized folks in general who are being targeted by this administration. I have never, in the 20 years that I have been in healthcare, had such extensive, everyday conversations with the people that I'm taking care of about their fears about how they are being targeted. New Mainers ask me all the time if their healthcare is confidential, if the fact that they are receiving sensitive healthcare is going to affect their asylum statuses. They're scared. I worry that they'll stop coming. I also worry that we're diverting money that could be used for much more human purposes, like addressing the HIV outbreak that we have in Bangor right now, working on all of the public health needs. The deaths of despair, we know were just reported, have risen by 1,000% over the past 10 years. So I want to ask that we don't come down on the side of despair, that we come down on the side of hope, and that we work for human beings rather than contributing more money to misery. I'm struck by the first speaker talking about his immigrant grandparents. Same for mine. My grandmother spoke German until she was 16 years old. And my grandparents were never persecuted by the government. When my son was born 10 years ago, my partner and I put together a family tree, and I could trace back my family 5 generations on one side and 7 generations on the other. My partner could only trace his back 2 because he's Jewish and his people are from Poland. And we don't know his grandmother's parents' names. That's where this is headed. So if you ever wondered where you would have stood in World War II, in Germany in 1938, now's your chance to answer. And I hope you answer the right way. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Debbie Reifsnyder, and I live in Falmouth, Maine. I've been moved by the testimonies from the people behind me. My father just died. He was a World War II veteran. He was 103 and a half when he died 2 months ago. And he saw what was happening in Nazi Germany. He was there when they liberated one of the concentration camps. He saw what was happening. I am appalled that in our country, we are taking immigrants off the streets and putting them in behind bars. We just said the Pledge of Allegiance. I had my back to you, but I assume that all of you said that. And that we are pledging an allegiance to a flag with liberty and justice for all. Liberty is freedom, and no one should be denied their freedom just by the color of their skin or where they came from. And justice means we need to follow the rule of law and not allow our administration here to deny people their liberties and their justice. So I implore all of you to please put an end to what's happening in our country here, especially in Maine, where I thought we valued those things that we say, that we pledge to every time we look at the flag. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Henderson. I live in South Portland. I've been in Maine 50 years now. I'm very proud to be an American, and I'm very proud because of our Constitution and the rule of law and our path in seeking better laws and our justice and mercy in our tradition and seeking better justice and mercy. Our government has been a shining light of liberty to the world. Donald Trump's executive orders relating to deportation are violating our individual rights of due process and everything we hold dear. Memorial Day is coming. We're going to stand at a parade and honor generations of men and women who have died for the freedom that is being taken away as we speak. It's been reported in the press, the Portland Press Herald said National Guard troops Trump would like to see the National Guard help people round up immigrants. History is being rewritten by the Trump administration. Science is being politically edited. Speech is being punished. What is happening now is extremely dangerous. It is not an issue. We need sound immigration policy. We need sound anti-crime policy. But that is not what this is about. What is happening, this is a totalitarian, racist purge of innocent people. And I'm so moved of all the beautiful things that people have said here today, and that really we can only just beg of you to do your best to save our country. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Schumacher. I live in Freeport. And I wasn't able to be in Augusta today to present in-person testimony for a couple of bills that were being heard by the Judiciary Committee, but I think that the testimony I wrote is pretty applicable to what we're seeing here in Cumberland County. As a Mainer, parent, and someone who celebrates the increasing diversity of our communities, I have been horrified to see that my neighbors have been unlawfully abducted by unidentified individuals, detained without warrant and without due process. I've also been disturbed to learn that several Maine municipal police departments have willingly begun the process of entering into 287G agreements with ICE, specifically the Wells Police Department, but also, and I know that's a municipality and you're all here thankfully showing up to keep the county running, but I've been deeply concerned with Cumberland County Sheriff's Department cooperation with ICE. And I strongly oppose the usage of my federal, state, and property taxes for these unconstitutional practices. There are three things that I think I just haven't heard, so I want to enter to this, that seeing these practices play out in our community decreases trust in our local and county law enforcement, and the trust in the process that we all commit to as citizens. It's diverting resources away from other matters, from actual harm, from preventing and dealing with actual harm, not folks who are here often escaping war and genocide and famine and situations that the United States government has contributed to in other nations. And it puts the county at risk for liability due to these illegal and unlawful and unconstitutional practices. So those are costly liabilities that the county takes on when the Sheriff's Department participates and cooperates with ICE. And I also just want to echo, I work in my local food pantry and have been heartbroken to see some regular folks missing. And I can't be sure why they're missing, but I can make a pretty good guess that it's because they're scared, which is what we're hearing from a lot of our neighbors. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Amelia Clancy. I live at 60 Walton Street. I didn't really prepare anything. Everyone has said everything that I would mostly say. I just want to speak as an educator in the community. I work in Portland Public Schools.
Excuse me.
Yes.
What's your name?
Amelia Clancy, sorry. You mentioned diverting resources, and so that is something I would like to discuss. The time that I, as an educator, and my co-educators have to spend to make, quote, safety plans in our schools is a disgusting misuse of resources. We have to have safety plans to shelter in place, evacuation plans, and now we have to independently develop plans for if ICE shows up at our schools and how we will protect our students. I tell my students that my #1 job is to keep them and their classmates safe, and having to make these kinds of plans, like I could be doing so many other amazing things. Kids don't know if their parents are going to be there when they get home from school. Their parents have to make plans for if their kids get off the bus and they're not there because they've been kidnapped on the street. It's horrifying. So Portland Schools hasn't really been clear about their response to this because the city hasn't been clear. So we're here to ask you to be clear about our response, that we will not comply with this. We will not be complicit in the abuse and the harassment and the hate that is happening, and that we will protect our people, including the immigrant population. They are our people too. Portland's been a role model in many ways. We voted to divest from Israel. The school district has released statements in support of the different groups being attacked, and so I'd like to ask the city to do the same. Thank you.
I'll piggyback off of that. I'm Sue Anderson. I'm a Portland educator and a Portland resident. I live on Dorset Street in Portland. I teach high school to multilingual learners here in Portland, and I'm speaking off the cuff because I've been busy preparing lessons and actually teaching. Teaching's been really rough these days.
You think?
We've, over the years, Portland schools and the city of Portland has done so much to make people feel safe when they come here. You are welcome here. We know you have assets. We're going to help you draw your assets and be all that you can be in our community. Are we going to still be like that? Is that who we're going to be? Because it's not who we're being now. Right now, we're being complicit in unlawful and inhumane actions towards people that prior to this we were welcoming and being a safe place for. We're lucky that students are still coming to school. In many places, students are dropping off and they're not coming to schools because their families don't feel safe sending them. By and large, students are still coming to my classes, but I'm telling you, they're not the same. We're causing harm. These are people who've suffered from trauma, from being threatened to join gangs, people being murdered in their families, extreme poverty, war in their countries. They've come here, and as we try to treat their trauma now, we're re-traumatizing people. And that's not what we're about in my school, and that's not who we've been in Portland, and I sure hope that's not who we are in Cumberland County. Nobody belongs in jails because they came to a place for safety.
Thank you, County Commissioners. Thanks for this opportunity to address you. My name is Brendan McQuaid. I live here in Portland. I'm an associate professor and chair of the Sociology and Criminology Department at the University of Southern Maine. While I'm not speaking as a representative of my employer, I am nonetheless moved by the same intellectual and ethical commitments that led me to devote my life to teaching and research. I'm here today to ask you to exercise your essential oversight function over the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department and end cooperation between Cumberland County and ICE. Currently, we've been told by ACLU, open records requests from the ACLU, by immigration advocates with ILAP, that there are between 60 and 100 people being detained in Cumberland County on behalf of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. Immigration is a federal priority. The federal government cannot operate its deportation machine without cooperation from county jails. They need county jails to hold people sometimes for short periods, sometimes for long periods, to operate the deportation machine. So I'm here today to ask you to exercise your power and oversight over county government and remove this gear from the deportation machine. This is not a neutral administrative function. What's sometimes called the crimmigration system has been built for 40 years by both parties, and it's now being used as the spear point of an increasingly authoritarian project. It disappears our neighbors, targets students, punishes speech, deputizes local police, and normalizes racial profiling. It trains us to live in fear of one another, not to live together. So this is not a theoretical problem, right? We're seeing this in Maine. We're seeing, on April 15th, Customs and Border Patrol abducted a 27-year-old Salvadoran man on Massachusetts Avenue, not far from here. Witnesses say they zip-tied him and threw him in the back of an unmarked van. As I said, there are dozens of people right now being held in Cumberland County Jail on behalf of ICE. So Maine has a proud tradition of independence and sanctuary, from the Underground Railroad to more recent sanctuary ordinances and to acts of civil disobedience. We are a poor state, but we know how to take care of each other. With the arrival of new immigrant communities from the Democratic Republic of Congo to Angola to South Sudan, we have an opportunity to build a new kind of politics, one rooted in mutual aid, cross-cultural solidarity, and shared liberation. We cannot police our way to peace or exile our way to order. Solidarity is not a sentiment. It is a practice that expands the terrain of democracy by refusing the logic of fear. So we must draw the line and stop participating in the deportation machine. I'm asking you today to stand in solidarity with our New Mainer brother and sisters. I ask you to do everything in your power to ensure that Maine does not bow to the authoritarianism, but rises in defense of freedom, dignity, and collective life, right? And what that means is ending cooperation between Cumberland County sheriffs and ICE. So thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Darcy Drew. I live in Portland and I also teach in Portland. And I'm a third-generation immigrant. I'm here to echo the words of my community members that are here and are not here. And we all ask that you stop cooperating with ICE and do what you can to cease that in the future. The history of immigration in the U.S. is a really long one. This is a story where this immigration is constantly met by nativism. And these immigrants are seen as scapegoats for other economic or social problems in our country. Irish, German, French Canadians were in the first wave after the English founders. They faced job and housing discrimination. The same happened here to Italians, Eastern Europeans, Japanese Americans, who suffered in internment camps. And history looks poorly on this xenophobia. We look poorly on it not only because these people give so much back to their community, but because the treatment they faced was inhumane. We look back on all of these parts of our history with shame. And be on the right side of history here. My students don't want to be the next entry in our history books. Please make Portland a safe place to live.
Hi, thank you for being here tonight. I'm Margaret Albright. I live in Freeport, Maine. I prepared nothing. I'm touched and overwhelmed by everything that I've heard and just want to drive home that ICE's actions, inhumane. That's exactly right. It is inhumane. It is unbearable to think this is going on in our country, the United States of America. There's little to no due process, and therefore the only right choice is to not participate in their actions. And I support this whole notion of stopping the Sheriff's Department from participating. They don't need to help out. We need to stop it. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Clara Porter. I live here in Portland, and I serve on the Hate Crimes Task Force for the state of Maine. And I'd like to tell you what's happened in that task force over the past year. It's a federally funded grant that brought together nonprofit organizations by and for immigrant people across Maine who really came together in collaboration to develop relationships with our state, local, and federal law enforcement partners. So they're FBI, U.S. Attorney's Office, Attorney General's Office, all these different groups coming together to build relationships. And what we saw was a building of trust, a building of understanding about what folks face in communities, and really a building of relationship. And when you get that, what you get is people communicating early and often about what's happening in their communities. And because they do that before crime or concerns get to an escalated level, you see a reduction in crime, right? You see a reduction in problems and the opportunities to really build community in a much safer and more sustainable way. That grant was pulled. Our federal partners can no longer come. Many of the local partners, law enforcement partners, don't either. We need to show to these community organizations which are doing the hard work that we haven't abandoned them and that we believe in the work and that we believe in the people that they're supporting. So I really urge you to please end the participation that is currently going on and put in barriers so that it doesn't continue to happen. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Ruddy, and I live here in Portland on Leland Street. As we have seen over the past few months, one of the key goals of this administration is cruelty itself. ICE has been deployed as the main enforcer of this cruelty, and it would like to weaponize our local resources for this purpose as well. But collaborating with ICE is unconscionable. We cannot assist in efforts to disappear Mainers and tear apart families. This is not about enforcing American law, and it is not even only about undocumented immigrants. Legal immigrants are being stripped of their status without due process, and we can expect this to continue to expand. This is about wielding local law enforcement as a weapon to purge Trump's political opponents from the country. This is about using local law enforcement as a threat to control the poor and vulnerable, even our law-abiding, tax-paying neighbors, even those with legal status. We can't control what ICE does, but the least we can do is control how we respond as a community and as a county. I would also like to highlight that many people are left out of these kinds of comment processes. People who are at work on weeknight evenings, people who struggle with English, people who feel afraid to call attention to themselves by speaking out, as these policies are designed to make them feel. I hope that you will consider these voices tonight as well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Steve Carroll, and I'm a resident of Portland. I'm also a public school teacher in Portland. Thank you very much for your time. I'm only very briefly want to add my voice to all the very eloquent voices in the room today, and just ask to the Cumberland County and its cooperation with ICE. Our policies and actions of the community need to be a reflection of our community values, and cooperation with ICE is not a reflection of our community values. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Wade. I live at Leland Street, and I'll keep it pretty short. Whatever your political
Excuse me,
leanings are.
what's your name?
Oh, Wade. Sorry, Wade Hen Carruthers. I live at 114 Leland. Whatever your political leanings are, you can't honestly look at what's happening and deny that our neighbors are being kidnapped by terrorists. Complicity in any aspect of this, or even the failure to proactively ensure that we are not complicit, is a deep moral stain. I urge you in your capacity as commissioners to make sure that our community's resources are not being used for terrorism or to further the construction of an authoritarian state. Cumberland County must cease any cooperation with our modern-day American Gestapo. Thank you.
Is there any?
There's a guy who's trying to get your attention on the podium. I don't know.
Totally unrelated, so if everybody else.
Okay.
Good. No, you're good. I was going to say, yes. It's Bruce, and he wants to talk about.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Fahey, and I live in Westbrook. Thanks so much for your time today. I also didn't intend to speak, but really appreciate all the voices that we've heard already tonight and feel really compelled to just add my voice and support. I spend my time working in helping immigrant community members and their families look for meaningful work here in the community. And I can say that everyone that I meet with is so excited to be a part of this vibrant community and really looking forward to bringing their skills, their experience, their passion into the community, integrating into the community. The amount, as has been said, the amount of fear that I hear from people at this time is truly immeasurable. We saw someone last week who had recently received an email from DHS telling her that she had to leave the country within the next 7 days, and if she did not leave, she would be found. They said that her work permit would be shut off, her parole would be shut off. This is someone who entered the country legally, is seeking asylum, and none of those, her work permit was not shut off. Her parole was not shut off. This was just a fear tactic. It was a cruel fear tactic. This woman has 3 children. She was in stable housing at the time and moved herself and her 3 children out of her apartment immediately after receiving this email, doubling up with family and friends in the community. Just like actually think about that. Like think about for a parent, what receiving an email like that would mean. The amount of fear for yourself and for your kids. I think that's really important to actually put ourselves in people's shoes and imagine what that must be like. We have been in conversations with community organizations where we are talking with immigrant community members about the need to plan for who will pick their children up at school if they're detained. These contingency plans are real and terrifying and heartbreaking, or they should be. And none of these policies make any of us safer. I mean, of course, this is not just targeting folks that are seeking asylum or refugees, but in our community, that is a big portion of the folks we're talking about here. And it should be known that that is an international human right. It is recognized internationally that everyone has the right to seek asylum. Due process, no matter what you think of our immigration policies, due process should matter to everyone. The fact that that's being completely disregarded should be terrifying. The fact that that's not seeming to matter at all to this federal administration, that is not the answer to immigration policies, that is fascism. And in order to combat fascism, we need action. And you all are in really important positions of power. You are all in positions where you can help us take action. And you're hearing from an incredible sea of community members here who are pleading for just that. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else that wishes to?
Hello, good evening. My name is Mallory Haar. I live in Portland, and I am a school teacher in Portland Public Schools. In an interview recently, Sheriff Joyce, you talked about having to uphold the oath you made to uphold state, local, and constitutional laws, and that sometimes part of doing that is doing things that you don't want to do. And when I read that interview with you, I heard some moral distress, and it's that
Mallory,
sense I
you
share.
need to address the council.
I
I mean, the
apologize.
commissions, yes.
I'm here tonight to join the chorus of voices urging on a moral level to stop collaboration with ICE. As a school teacher, I can tell you that this is interrupting our students' right to a free and fair education. The fear of deportations is deeply affecting their ability to come to school and come to school with the ability to focus. And I know that from one public servant to another. I don't think this is why we got into this, and I want to encourage everyone here tonight to think about how we can better serve our community and also cease collaborating with ICE. Thank you very much.
My name is Lila Corman Glazer. I live in Portland on University Street. I'm here to ask that the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department end all collaboration with ICE. We have people in our community being kidnapped off of the streets illegally by ICE agents with no due process. That is an emergency. People are being snatched off of the streets and thrown into unmarked vans. I want everyone to stop for a moment and just try to imagine how you would respond if this was happening to your family or your kids. Because we're not acting like that. The people in the decision-making power are not acting like we have an emergency. This is happening to our neighbors, and we have the power to stop it. We do not have to collaborate with ICE in Cumberland County. My family came to this country as immigrants. I imagine many of your families came to this country as immigrants. And frankly, I don't know where we would all be if our family members had been snatched off the street illegally and thrown into unmarked vans. I don't think we'd be where we are today. Thank you for your service. I hope that all of you who are elected can see that the public is watching and taking note of your actions, and rest assured that we will be watching the next time you're up for re-election as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Peach Cushing. I live in Brunswick. I work for the Brunswick Post Office. I understand that this probably feels like an extremely long meeting for those of you who are sitting on the Commissioner Board. However, I beg of you to reach past the mundanity of sitting here and hearing from a lot of people and feeling tired to understand that this is a huge public outcry from people. We currently have somewhere between 60 and 100 ICE holds in Cumberland County Jail right now. It's just our best estimate. It's hard to keep track. People get moved. It's hard to keep up with where they are moved to. And that's just for community members who are trying to keep tabs on data, never mind family members who are trying to figure out where their family is going. So, as a community here, we may not have the direct power and authority to do the right thing and stop cooperation with a kidnapping regime. However, you all do. Begging you, pleading with you, we all are, to use that authority, to use that power that we have vested in you by voting for you. Please tell our sheriff, Kevin Joyce, to stop cooperation with ICE and any other agency involved in this deportation scheme. Don't wake up in 10 years and wish you could have done something different, or think, man, that was so bad, I'm glad we did what we could, because if you don't do this, you really haven't done anything. So take that to heart, sleep with it, think about what it would be like to see an apartment abandoned with food in the fridge, shelves open, dog food in the bowl, kids' clothes strewn out for the next day's school. These things are happening. These things are real. It's happening here. It's not just happening in some other state. It's literally happening here. I see pictures and messages every day from friends and community members around the state who are keeping eyes on ICE. It's not just happening elsewhere. It's happening here on a daily basis. People are getting taken. Please do the right thing and stop this in our state. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wishes to address this topic? I'm going to do something a little different. Bruce, I'm going to ask you to hold off, because we have the sheriff that would like to address this, and we have a commissioner that wishes to address this, and then we'll move on to another topic. Sheriff?
So good evening. I guess no matter where I stand, my back's to something. My apologies. So I've heard a lot today. I just got done listening to the legislature too. You know, we live in a world where there's two factions. Lock them all up, and let them all go. You know, and somewhere in reality is a middle. I've heard that law enforcement in Maine is working with ICE on the 287G. I can tell you right now, other than Wells, and I'm not sure they'll get there, the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office will not be partaking in 287G. There's a little history. Back in 1990s, I worked part-time while I was working here full-time with the old Immigration Service. And at that time, I just moved people that were in custody around and occasionally got a trip to some other country to drop them off. But during my 12, 15 years there, one thing I learned is immigration law is not like federal law, criminal law, and state criminal law. Law enforcement, local law enforcement, state law enforcement has no business trying to enforce immigration law. It's technical. I can't tell you how many times in talking to those who deal with it, even up until now, you ask a question about, well, whether or not this is illegal or not. Well, that all depends, because there's all kinds of depends. So the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office is not partaking in the 287G. That's never been on the table with me, and it won't be. We've got enough to do. And quite frankly, I'm coming to these folks all the time asking for more people to just do what I have to do for the communities we serve. And I'm not going to be partaking in something that we don't have the expertise in. The 287G gives you 40 hours of training. 40 hours of training. Border Patrol agents, at minimum, get 12 to 14 weeks of training. Now, the average person going to go 40 hours, what do you get out of that? You get nothing, other than the okay to be a mini ICE agent if you want to do that. I can tell you from my colleagues in Cumberland County, I haven't heard anybody intimate that they want to get involved in the 287G program. In fact, I can pretty much speak for the 16 sheriffs in Maine. Some on borders and members of the same administration party, and they have no interest in getting into the 287 program either, because it's a setup for failure. It's a setup for failure. As it's been mentioned, federal immigration is a federal responsibility. It's up to the president and legislature to take care of it. So I can tell you right now, my guys are not stopping people based on color just to see if they're legal or not. Now, as I've told them, if they go to a shoplifting case or a domestic violence case or an OUI, and somebody may be illegal and they don't speak really good English, you take care of the state problem. And if you'd arrest person like me for that crime, you arrest that person too. Because we are upholding public safety. That's my job for Cumberland County, is you've asked me to uphold public safety. And it's a hard thing to do right now, quite frankly, because you got to lock them up or to let them go. And as I said, somewhere in the middle, there's reality. I met with 2 new employees today. They've been here 2.5 years, 3 years from Angola. And I was kind of interested in talking to them because they're corrections officers. And quite frankly, the difference between the people we're holding on behalf of ICE and these folks that I hired is, in order to get hired, they have to take a polygraph. And I credited them for the fact that they passed. They haven't done anything that is illegal. They told the truth. But the folks that we're holding, I don't have a polygraph on them. I don't know what they've committed for a crime. Just like when the state police brings in a murder suspect. I don't know what they have. My job is to take them. And I don't have any ability to stand there and say, no, that doesn't come in, that person will come in. We accept all arrests, and due process takes over. U.S. Marshals come in all the time. Due process takes over. Now, I've been up front and said, prior to 2017, ICE would call over and say, hey, hold whatever. And we've got 48 hours to do an investigation. In my mind, it sounded like we got 48 hours to come up with something, or you can release it. And I said, no, 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 we're not doing that. We got to have probable cause, and we got to have ICE intervention. They can come into the jail and take custody of that person if they have a case. Again, I don't know what's in that person's background. They have aspect to it. Law enforcement, we can call in and check on people's licenses, but when we call in, we don't find out where the individual crossed the border or didn't cross the border or was under observation for ICE. So again, that's why local law enforcement has no business whatsoever in immigration enforcement. What I hear here today, my apologies, what I hear here today is a lot of the rhetoric that is being thrown around from DC, from the media. I agree. When a van pulls up with masked men jumping out and taking custody of somebody, that's bad for law enforcement. I can't think of a time when I would tell my guys, put a mask over your head, jump out, grab this person, yank him into a van, and race off. Because I like to believe that when I stand here in uniform, we're transparent. And if I'm going to take somebody in custody, other than a detective, then we're not going to be covering our faces, because you ought to know who we are, because we're doing our job. So you're right, those folks that have seen this, that's problematic. I saw it a few weeks ago with a person down in Massachusetts who spoke out against the government. And I scratched my head as a law enforcement officer saying, not sure why that had to happen that way. But unfortunately, ICE is controlled out of DC, and I feel bad for the ICE agents because depending on who's in control, they're hated because they're not doing their job, they're hated because they're doing their job. But I didn't choose ICE, I'm just talking to you about what's going on. In a couple weeks, probably less, because I'm on the board of directors for the National Sheriff, so I get a little bit of information before it comes out. It will go public probably that Cumberland County and probably all the counties in Maine will be on a list for being sanctuary areas because we haven't signed up for the 287G. That was pushed down our throat with the idea that a few days before that, some nice things were said about from the administration about how law enforcement is really good and stuff. And supposedly we were given a lot of support that we already had. So when I read it, it was like, well, okay, we already got it, but that's all right. So you'll see that. And for some people, that will look bad on my position of holding the line of defending public safety, but also defending people's civil rights. We've heard about due process. Back up. I've heard 60 to 100 ICE inmates, 60 maybe, about 2/3, and we got about 100 federal inmates. So the other third are U.S. Marshal inmates. I've got a sergeant that listens in on the ICE court, and I can tell you due process is happening every day. The folks we have in custody are going in front of the judges at one point or another. Well, I'm just telling you that it's happening a lot. You can hear what's going on in D.C., and I don't know if we have to give them due process and stuff. Well, if you're standing on this soil, you are entitled to due process. But again, I don't monitor everybody's arrest coming in. At some point, the court will listen, and they'll determine whether or not that agency had due process or not, and make their decisions based on that. Lastly, I guess the collaboration is the fact that we hold ICE inmates. Well, I've been here 38 years, and for about 31 of them, we've held ICE inmates, and we've held Marshal inmates. In fact, in doing some history, in '91, when we started to build the jail, the U.S. Marshals gave the county commissioners $1 million with an understanding that for 20 years, they would have a certain number of beds for the U.S. Marshals. Why? It's not because we're the greatest jail in the world, or we are, I think, but we're close to the federal court, 4 miles away, so we're convenient. So we've held federal inmates, whether they were ICE or U.S. Marshals, for the last 31, 32 years. And we've gone the ebbs and flows depending on the administration. But unfortunately, what we're seeing now is just a rattling of sabers to try to get people jeeped up, misinformation, and cowboys that are going out and doing their job. And I talk about the ICE. As I mentioned before, we've got 27 to 30 people, new Americans, anywhere from the Congo to Afghanistan, Russia. And they express their fear to me. And they're in the jail. You know, and I try to tell them that, look, you know, if you don't do anything wrong, because I know what's in your background right now, then, you know, if your paperwork expires, that's something we can do and take care of. It's when you commit a crime or do something else that you're going to call attention to yourself. And I think we all sit here and say, a majority of the people we're talking about haven't done anything or done anything substantial that would cause attention to themselves. Unfortunately, in Maine, there are even fewer. But you don't have to go too far to find people that may not be legal citizen and have committed some pretty heinous crimes. And I don't know about you, but I think we don't need any more of that because we got enough of the locals doing that type of stuff. So I will end with this. There's legal immigration, there's illegal immigration. I'm committed to making sure that we don't enforce immigration. On the flip side, I signed on to you, my oath, that I would try to protect public safety. I got an email last night regarding an individual that is an American citizen and committed a heinous crime against a new American. When I say heinous, a heinous crime, I can't tell you if I gave an opinion or not. I'm trying to figure that out because I get so many of them. But I was pretty much called that I was blocking because this individual was a new American. I was taking his side over a guy that's been here forever. And let me tell you, this was a heinous crime. And before I respond back in final, I wanted to say, I kind of think manslaughter is a pretty serious crime. And to let somebody out early, probably not going to do it. I don't care whether they're a new American, an old American, white, black, or brown. I'm not going to do it. That's my position on this. I will uphold it as much as I can. because I believe in due process and the fact that not everyone's perfect, and we do need the influx of new Americans in. I'm utilizing them. They're great people, and quite frankly, I've got about 17 options of different languages that they speak. I struggle with English, and these guys are fluently speaking 5 or 6 or 7 languages. So I'm the guy, we hold the federal inmates, but this is nothing uncommon. It's just that now it's being ratcheted up by our friends in DC, and you folks are fired up. People that want to lock them all up are fired up, and we're trying to do the best we can to do what's right for everybody. I'm done.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Thank you. I just, of course, heard what everybody had to say. I want to say hello again to my friend, Representative Luckner. He did the state a great favor and the city as well in an election a few years ago, and I appreciate that. Worked out just fine. Glad to see you're still at it. I was on the Portland City Council when the Immigration Service, I think they were called at the time, showed up at the Preble Street Resource Center, where the Wayside Soup Kitchen was feeding a couple hundred hungry people, and anyone who was brown or black was escorted to the county jail, having been arrested, and they were incarcerated. Half of them were unable to access the documentation they had that was going to assure anyone that had any fair-minded look at the thing that they were lawfully in Maine and lawfully working and certainly lawfully having something to eat. And frankly, the Portland City Council raised hell about that. And you may remember a senator named Olympia Snow, and she had some friends in the Senate as well. And it took about 48 hours for the new supervisor to be transferred back to Texas. And that was the end of that, except we asked the chief of police, his name was at the time Michael Chitwood. He was already famous as the detective that put the arm on Roman Polanski for a murder that everybody thought had occurred, but nobody could prove. He was the one that figured out how to prove it. And so he was kind of famous before we ever had him in town for that. And we asked him to comment on an ordinance that we had drafted, and he said, "You don't need any ordinances." He says, "This is a police matter." He says, "And the police in the city of Portland will not enforce immigration law. We have no business doing it. We have no idea how it's supposed to work. Things that you might read the law and say, well, that means this will happen. In fact, it almost never happens for other reasons that nobody really has any idea where they came from, but they exist and they're uniformly applied." And so that was the that was the disposition of that in Portland. And I heard several people, and this is really why I wanted to say a few words. Several people say they thought that Cumberland County was participating with ICE on some illegal basis. I can tell you that ICE has often, people associated with ICE somehow, have often said that Portland is a sanctuary city, that Cumberland County is a sanctuary county, that we are uncooperative with their doings and their procedures. And when they say that, they are correct. The ICE has a process whereby they have for many years asserted a federal, they don't really claim it as a right, but this is how they have operated for many decades, actually, they and the predecessors. When someone has been incarcerated in the Cumberland County Jail because they hit somebody in the jaw, or they fired off a gun when they shouldn't have, or whatever else they might have done. There will come a time when they will probably make bail, because we have very specific bail laws in Maine, and they apply, and so people are released. And ICE would wish that they could call and exercise what they call a detainer. A detainer is actually an informal agreement where a local jurisdiction will incarcerate somebody without legal basis until ICE can spend a few days, and sometimes it's a long weekend, but it's more than 10 minutes, and 10 minutes is already 10 minutes too long. Those people are not entitled to be incarcerated. They are not supposed to be incarcerated, and unless ICE has shown up with an arrest and with probable cause, and as the sheriff has indicated, there'll be due process in virtually every instance. And I'm a lawyer. I can tell you that during COVID, with the courthouses closed and everybody wearing a mask, and people not available, and frankly, we went months in this building. The only one in the building was our friend Jim Gailey, the manager, and he was walking around, and I'm sure we heated it a little around here, but you know, that was the situation for about a year and a half. But other than those kinds of issues, under no circumstances would a detainer or some kind of informal incarceration, which is a common practice in other parts of the United States, by the way, shamefully, under no circumstances is our policy that would ever be the situation. And so the claim that the Sheriff's Department, and I heard it, frankly, I got some emails, also a few people had that impression as they spoke tonight. That is not the situation in Cumberland County. Either you're there under arrest lawfully with probable cause and the right to both a bail hearing and consideration and due process, or you're out the door, and that's it. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the history of immigration law in the United States. It was the end of the 19th century when the so-called Chinese laws were enacted. Those followed up after World War I. There was a substantial movement in Congress, which eventually bubbled through into the quota laws that were enacted shortly after World War I, and it's been downhill ever since. It's racist, but we in Maine and we in Portland have every right to be proud of the culture that we have fostered and insist upon. Portland and Maine was the last stop on the Underground Railroad. You can go up into Congress Street and walk around, and you'll find these little historical monuments on the sidewalks that describe what this property or that property or this place was to the Underground Railroad, and it was the safest and the last stop. Once you got to Maine, you were all set. You could stay here or you could go to Canada, but you were not going to be grabbed and dragged back down to Mississippi. My grandmother came here when she was 17, and she didn't admit to me until she was 95 that it was because the Black and Tans were looking for her shortly after World War I. But when she came here, Nina existed, and if you wanted to apply for a job and saw a poster or an advertisement, N-I-N-A, no Irish need apply. And so people who are Italians understand that they were sometimes called WAPs. What does WAP mean? Without papers. That's what that is. So there's a lot of history in the United States. A lot of it's, when it comes to immigrants, is discouraging. I urge you all to read the whole poem that is engraved on the Statue of Liberty. It is really something, and it really is about telling the tyrants of the world, you can kick out whoever you want, but those are the people we want. And that's my recommendation.
We can't. at this point?
Yeah, I can't answer questions anyway, I don't know.
I had a question and some misinformation that I heard.
And I do also want to say hello to all the teachers in Portland. My wife was a reading tutor for a full career in Portland schools. And again, it's a culture that is very pluralistic. When I was on the city council, we had 65 different languages spoken at home for the students of Portland schools. That was like maybe 7,000 students, and it was truly remarkable what people had to do in order to help kids make progress. So. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you have, but it's going to be out in the hall after the meeting. Sorry.
Thank you, James. Any other commissioners? No? Seeing that, then we'll, for this issue of comment is over, and we'll move on. Bruce, you have something you want to say?
Thank you very much, Commissioners, over the years for your help to the cause of community service. I know many times prior to the pandemic, one of the things you did was to ceremonies honoring Spirit of America winners for their community service. You did a beautiful job. Then the pandemic came, and as we all know, that changed everything. I hadn't heard back from the county about maybe what would have happened since 2019. So in any case, what was proposing that going forward, or this year, that whatever, that there might be a way, if your Board of Commissioners might be able to recognize some for their volunteers and community service. Tonight we've heard some beautiful things that have been done with the schools, the teachers, the food pantries, and so forth. And what had proposed in an email, and I've sent you a lot of emails, so you might have been lost in those, but anyway, the thought was that it might be a nice gesture for you to do something later this year, recognizing some for community service. And so anyway, and as I said, encouraged you, this is trying something totally new, that you'll be given, that you're encouraged to select some that you would like to see honored and at a commissioners meeting, and you certainly would be invited to submit nominations too. And so that was the thing. I realized that through something like this, you can get some great publicity. The realization tonight from the number of people who were here about the topic, the fact that they were here, so many were speaking, you have a lot of respect here in your county. So the opportunity, respect you, so you could, some great publicity on this. I mentioned that in terms of a media and so forth, and have some ideas of getting media out to attend. So I don't know if there's anybody has any questions, or maybe if I
don't think so at this time. Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you for all your help.
Is there any other item of?
Just, Chair, you're the chair, right?
I am.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. I think probably many of us are going to let you get about your business now, but could we set up a meeting with yourself as the chair and any county commissioners who would like to meet at a time to discuss this further? I think we all reject the categorization that we don't know what we're talking about. We're working on this information. We're teachers, we're educators, we know what's happening in our schools. So we would appreciate the opportunity to meet with perhaps a subcommittee of the county commissioner to explore this question further, to put it back on the business agenda in the coming weeks and months, and move on this, because as our sheriff explained, he understands what he is doing is correct. I think we have a disagreement about that, and you all have the power to decide which way it's going to go. So would it be possible to set up a meeting to hear from Representative Lochner, some of the teachers, some of the community representatives, to do that with a subcommittee or yourself as a chair?
What I would suggest is you let me have your name and how I get a hold of you. And I'll need to talk to the commissioners before I can make that response. Thank you. Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
Quick fact check, ICE is only 22 years old, so we haven't been holding ICE ICE detainees for 31 years. Polygraphs have been proven pseudoscientific nonsense. I'm a psych major. Why we're using those still as a county, I think it's basic, get rid of those. And we know what we're talking about, as was said before. And if you don't punch your friend in the face, but you let other people punch your friend in your face, or in their face, you're still a shitty friend and we're still complicit. So let's take care of that.
Take a 10-minute recess.
I trust you on not behaving yourself at all. How you doing, Senator? Good to see you.
Same thing going on out there.
Capital City, yeah, same thing.
Capital City?
Yeah, I believe it.
He's on the
Colonel thought he was here to talk about a criminal post.
Criminal justice?
Yeah.
That was my last committee.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no kidding. What's your name?
Tom Tyler.
I see. He pulled the trump. I won the day election, he pulled it out with the absentees.
Truman Dewey defeats Truman.
I was up to 117 to 126.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Did you serve with Michael LaJoy?
Yes.
Yeah, he's on my committee still.
Oh, yeah, he was going up, in fact, last time I was.
Swing by tonight.
Was right in,
Oh, yeah.
excuse me, sat on my right side.
Oh, yeah.
That's why you did this, right?
Mike and I go home. Yeah, I had Stan Wasowski and
Oh, yeah.
Sheriff Mayor Dion was my.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Charlotte Warren on there?
No.
I was on the wayside of Wood.
Oh, I forgot Durkin was here.
Then I was on their advisory board, and I said, well, I don't mind being on the board, I said, but you really got some real good judgment, never asked me for any advice. So, no, that's a great board, that wayside.
You win. So whole thing can happen. Yes, you're paying me time and 24.
Good to see you.
You too.
Yeah, right.
I said, last Monday.
Is that why you're doing it? You all are doing this for the money?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in the prestige, you know?
I can retire now when I get done.
Yeah.
They're
What was I gonna ask you? Oh.
I meant to ask you, would you?
I tried to break with my head, it can't seem to work. Are you, I was truly glad for a couple of reasons that you actually won.
I was about to say that.
I was redistricted.
James.
Right.
Flashback of South Portland.
Huh?
I just had a flashback of South Portland.
Reared its ugly head a couple of times, so I had to.
You're so funny, your face, you are not a poker player
I
like
dodged the
me.
bullet by losing the city council.
I cannot play poker because my face reveals it all.
That is really.
I'm out of practice. I had it down.
I mean, I don't disagree with these
Then
folks.
that Colonel Whitney, because he's on criminal justice.
But I'm telling you, that goes it's like, we still know. It's like, you know what, it's guys like you. That's my opinion. Welcome
Everything's just getting taken down the road from,
You go talk to him.
What's that?
I can't take him.
Who? What? He's
He's a weirdo.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
He's talking about this topic
Checked
here,
my
and he's
emails
really
like
looking
twice
over
at night,
there.
and that was
so
it. I was like, I'm not, so it was good.
It's guys like.
no, he's the guy that spoke first.
He's like, you look like you got caught. Where did you go? And I go, this is my beach.
You did have good weather. I
It was so
like,
good.
it was nice last week.
Yeah, it's like Tuesday rain. Other than that, it was great. So.
Yeah, you
good
too.
vibe.
Like initially, it was like yours. There's a few things.
I printed it off. Yeah.
Actually, honestly, more yours stuff came in today than
Yeah, I mean,
anything else.
I want to digest it. I mean, I don't think making any decision.
They gave us
Exactly. I checked my emails like 3 times, like during the week. I was like, if something urgent comes up, somebody will text me. I'm not dealing with it.
Back in my day, it was 20 for 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
They're gonna yell at me.
You guys got some actual business.
This is a tough crowd here, you know, they're mean.
Used to leave. But we can't, we don't know that.
But we can't control the ice.
No, but if we.
I know,
We need, yeah, we have to.
Time means everything.
People don't understand how that works.
Well, other than we could shut the show.
That's just it right there.
But we're trying to.
Would have been pretty good if we had the correction officers come
You know what
tonight.
I thought?
Oh, yeah.
To bring the legislature, especially the real ultra out in the left wing people for money. Well, we can stop taking federal if you give us more money.
Exactly.
Because we make more money from the feds.
That's excellent.
Every single
All
Monday.
right. Are we all here? We are.
He has disappeared.
He's kicking around
Okay.
here.
We back in, call the meeting to order again?
Swear words.
Let's see.
That's it?
How about that one?
That's what I'm confused with. Yeah, we just got the earlier chairman in there.
Yeah, I gave it to Catherine, so.
Just for me to put it in.
I'd like to have a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved?
Seconded.
Is there any item that a commissioner wishes taken off the consent agenda and moved to the new business? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. Next item of business is new business, and I will turn that over to our manager.
Thank you. First item up, my computer will scroll here. Under new businesses, an award a bid to Bucksman Deering Team, a Remax Shoreline for real estate services. Staff went out to RFP over the last 2 months for real estate services in seeking help on acquiring parcels of land throughout Cumberland County that met certain criteria so that we could create a land bank using ARPA funds that we had designated for affordable housing. We are finding that affordable housing programs are being a little bit impacted, and there's not a lot of things moving forward. We had not received a lot of inquiries into the funding that we had available outside of just a single project, which we funded. And so due to the strict time frame and the limited ability for us to move this money around into another project, we felt as though looking at purchasing vacant land throughout the county to create a land bank in hopes of partnering with developers or local housing authorities in the coming years would be a good solution and move that money out of the coffers so that we do not lose it back to the federal government. And so this RFP was responded to, and we have selected Buxman Deering team, which their offices are right across Franklin Arterial here, very convenient location. They are proposing, if they're not covered by the seller in terms of commission, they would impose a commission of 3% for any purchase under $500,000 in value of a property or sale, and 2.5% for any property over $500,000. And so our recommendation and our wishes are to award this bid to Buxman Deering Team, Remax Shoreline, for real estate services. Thank you.
So could I have a motion to award?
Second?
Is there any discussion?
I just want to make a point that I think that, it's important for us to try to use these funds wisely, these ARPA funds, and obviously, affordable housing, however you might measure it, is an important and will be an important topic going into the multiple years ahead. So I think it's wise to kind of create this, it was described as a land bank, but it's like an investment and a down payment towards hopefully someday having affordable housing projects going again, and I think it's wise to try to set aside that land to do so. So I'm in favor. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Yes, I was known in Scarborough Town Council as Ms. Workforce Housing, so I'm all for investing in land opportunities that can be used at some point to house folks. Housing is a real estate professional, I know how expensive housing is right now. It's near impossible for anyone who's either starting out or with a so-called middle-class income to buy a house, particularly in the greater Portland area. You got to go way out in order to afford. So I think this is a really good use of the funds, and I consider it an investment in those ARPA funds to do that. So I'm fully in support of this.
Any other comments? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. The next item, 25051.
Move passage.
Second?
Any comments?
Yeah, I suppose we ought to mention that Alyssa Tibbetts has been helping us for a long time, and she's in a new position, and we're quite happy that she's willing to help us some more.
I'll also add, go ahead, Jim. Just going to say, I also have had, Alyssa did some work when I was a counselor at South Portland, and I think she's been just a very reliable legal counsel for many folks, and I think it's nice to have someone that you've worked with before, that you know, and knows us, and I'm excited to be engaged in terms of this letter and hopefully continue good law and legal expertise that she's given over the years, and I'm excited for this new frontier. Thank you. Jim.
Any other? James?
I'll just fill in why. The why is because for years Cumberland County had Jensen Beard, Gardner and Henry, or Jensen Beard of late, as our corporation counsel. Over that time, we had a couple of attorneys at Jensen Beard take the lead as corporation counsel, the latest being Alyssa Tibbetts. Jensen Beard has decided to close their government practice. And Alyssa Tibbetts has proposed going out on her own, hanging her own shingle under Tibbetts law. Staff enjoy working with Alyssa. She has a lot of history with us. We feel as though we get great guidance and help from her. And we would really appreciate if the commissioners, and it sounds like it's going that way, appoint her, Alyssa Tibbetts, under Tibbetts law as a corporation counsel. That does, one thing I should say is that when Alyssa goes out on her own, she is not bringing the full package of government law with her. She is going to really focus on personnel, labor issues, bonding, and other financial affairs associated with government bodies, like TIF districts, but we do not deal with TIF districts. We will have to explore other legal services. We do have the periodic contract renew or contract review that we will need to have someone take a look at, or any other ancillary legal reviews that come about. And so that is something that we'll be exploring. I've been talking to Alyssa about potential attorneys in the greater Portland area to seek out and to have that conversation with. But Alyssa will do the primary bulk of our work as our corporation counsel. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just can't avoid mentioning that she really showed her capabilities when she was counsel for a commission that had 3 lawyers out of 5 on it. Anyway, anyone that could do that has got a lot of talent.
I'm not going to say anything more. Those in favor? All right, 25052, adoption of a proposed 2025 Cumberland County EMA Emergency Operation Plan as submitted by the Cumberland County Emergency Management Agency. James?
Thank you. Every 5 years, the Emergency Management Agency is required to update the emergency operations plan for the county. We are on year 5. And so this evening, we are joined by Michael Durkin, the EMA Director for the county, to introduce this item and talk a little bit about it for the commissioners to feel comfortable approving and signing off on the document. Michael? I'd just like to take an opportunity to thank Michael for getting through that public hearing with all of us. And
it was an exciting one, yeah. I get to come up maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and I don't often get such an honor. So, I'm Michael Durkin. If anybody hasn't met me, I'm the Emergency Management Director for Cumberland County. Some of you I think I've met, some of you I think I haven't met yet. Today we're talking about the Cumberland County Emergency Operations Plan that you've all got maybe not a printed copy of, but it's all in your email, I'm sure. This for us is a foundational document. It's one of kind of the big 3 documents that we do. In emergency management, we do a lot of work, probably the bulk of our work we do before the disaster, trying to prevent it or mitigate the impacts of it. And we do a lot of work after the disaster, trying to rebuild it. This is the document that guides what my agency does during the disaster, and in that kind of transition from during the disaster to rebuilding. So you'll find a lot of different things in it. The main thing that I'd like to focus folks on is that it goes over a lot of the roles and responsibilities. It goes over them for county agencies. It says what my role is, what CCEMA's role is. It says what the county manager's role is. It says what finance's role is. So the sheriff's even in there. So there's a few different sort of roles as county agencies. You're in there.
I'm going to say something.
So it goes through different county agencies. An important piece to note is you're all in there as county commissioners as well. You're on page 21, if anybody hasn't quite seen it yet, or if you didn't find it, because it's noticeable, but if you know what you're looking for, it's there. So your role as commissioners during a disaster is to provide policy guidance during emergency response efforts in coordination with the county manager and CCEMA director. So essentially, what you normally do. And that's exactly what the sheriff's office is supposed to do too, right? We don't take the sheriff and make him start learning a new job. He does the same thing, just in service of the disaster. So finance does the same thing finance does every day. They process invoices, they authorize payments, that sort of thing, but they do it in service of the disaster. And yours is the same thing. You make policies and make rulings, same thing, but in service of the disaster. So we keep things bucketed that way. I'd highly recommend a review of those roles and responsibilities. I just read yours to you in full, so you're good on your responsibilities. But it's really good to note the differences between what my agency does versus the local, the municipal emergency managers, and then our relationship with the state emergency management agency. By law, the county is required to have an emergency management director. Every town, by law, is required to have a local emergency management director. And the state is required to have a whole emergency management agency. The states are given, the state MEMA is given a fair amount of guidance as far as the responsibilities and tasks that office has to hold. For the counties and for the locals, there's not a lot to it. For local emergency managers, for all our participating towns, they're required to have someone that is the emergency management director, and that's about it. No real questions on who that person is, no real questions on what the duties are, what the qualifications, none of that. So you see a lot of variance even within our county of the capabilities of the towns. That's why this is a good, important document, because our county EOP probably doesn't read like neighboring county EOPs. It probably reads a little bit different because everything in Maine is very customizable. Another important thing I kind of want to highlight on this is that as we are an all hazards agency, this is an all hazards document. And so what I mean is that this is the document that guides us, whether it's a cybersecurity attack, whether it's a terrorist threat, whether it's an airplane falling out of the sky, or a flood, or a hurricane, or a wildfire, anything that my agency would respond to, we have essentially one document. Because our role as emergency management is to manage complexity, essentially. We manage complex situations. The way we do that is by applying a system to a complex situation to break it into little pieces and make it manageable. This document is basically that system. Any questions?
I don't have a question, I just have a
Or
comment.
emergency management in general. I'll take
Just,
it.
yeah, I mean, I was really, I mean, I know it's by law, it's every 5 years, is that right? It has to be updated. Have you seen any changes? I mean, I remember reading it, and I read it again this year. Anything that you feel like is added new to the list, and you have the high-low risk kind of spectrum within the manual or the guide between, I think it starts at nor'easter, which I think is interesting. Here, but I guess for Maine, that's us, the nor'easter down to some low level, like radiation. What do you see changing in the years to come in terms of this plan, or what you see shifting? I'm just curious.
As far as the hazards specifically?
Yep.
So the hazards come from actually a different planning process and a different planning document.
Okay.
The version you last read was from 2019. COVID set us
Yep.
back about a year. And that 2019 document, we had about 3 different towns that actually weighed in. And that's important because when that's how we gather those hazards. We ask the towns. We ask Public Works, we ask IT, we ask as many people as we can talk to. We ask groups of chiefs of police and different officials. We only had 3 in that 2019 document. The hazard list in this one, we had 22 different towns. And it wasn't just talking to that local emergency manager. Again, we were pulling 4 or 5 or 6 people from each town. We talked to hospitals, we talked to utilities providers. So I think the list we have in here as far as the hazards is very solid. As far as it's a good reflection of what our municipalities and what people in the know think are the #1 hazards for us. I don't necessarily predict the hazards changing a ton. It's Maine. I think winter weather is going to be our bread and butter. It always has been, and I don't really see that changing. You'll see other things that tend to pop on and off. I believe in the 2019, something like a mass shooting was much lower down. Since the Lewiston tragedy, you'll see that higher. That's at the forefront of people's minds. But at the same time, we as an agency are doing better at making sure law enforcement voices are reflected in our documents. The 2019 one, they weren't. There was no law enforcement. We didn't ask them, quite frankly. So I think the net that we're casting into the communities and the amount of information we're getting is better. And I think that reflects a much better plan. Yeah.
Great.
A big change you might see, I'd be very impressed if anyone saw it because it's kind of technical, but is the structure we use in our Emergency Operations Center. In 2019, we followed the federal structure that was passed down direct from us. We didn't think about it, we didn't question it, we didn't do anything to it. We said, these are the positions, these are the roles, we'll fill them. Now we've shifted that model to what's called an incident support model. And that better reflects our actual role. Because at the county level, and knowing that we have locals underneath us, they're the one actually managing that incident, right? That fire chief is the one directing those resources. I don't come in as the county manager or the county emergency manager and say, no, this fire truck goes here, that fire truck goes there. That's not our role. So we've restructured our EOC a little bit into what's called a support model, meaning our role as an EOC is to support them. That is our main role, to support that emergency manager in the town. Whatever they call us for, whatever they need us for, we have the structure that's now flexible to adapt and meet that need and not necessarily say, well, that doesn't fit into this federal structure system that we use. It just didn't make sense that way.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions of him? Michael, I have one.
Sure.
Is the, in just what you just started to talk about there, do you see, because we're beginning to see this consolidation of some services in communities to communities, and then with our communication center and dispatching and so on, do you see communities beginning to gravitate to have your function do it for communities?
Yes. The direct answer, yes. There's a little nuance to it. They know they are by law required to have that position, but there are parts of that position that don't make sense at a local level, or they do if you have resources. The way we resource things at that local level doesn't make a lot of sense. For us, what we see in our county is all the local emergency manager, also the fire chief. That makes sense at a certain level because they're the ones who have to go up in disasters and fix problems and clean up after them and stuff. But as soon as that disaster strikes, when I need that person to put on their emergency manager hat, that's when they're needed to wear their fire chief hat. So as soon as we need all of our local emergency managers, I don't want to say they vanish, but they're off doing fire chief stuff. And that's important. We need them to do that fire chief stuff. But not every town can support a paid even part-time dedicated emergency manager. So we're seeing them look to us more and more for different things. Yeah. I actually spoke to a lot of our local emergency managers last week, and I basically walked them through some of the changes we're seeing with FEMA at the federal level. We don't know which way those changes are going to go, which way they're going to look, but we know they're going to be big changes, right? We know these are not small changes that anyone's proposing. These are all large, significant things. So it's not something us or the towns can just ride out and say, well, we'll just wait a year and it'll all smooth over. That's not what's being proposed. And I think we can reasonably expect to see a smaller FEMA, a smaller organization. What that means is more duties are going to fall on the state and local folks, things we haven't had to do before, new mission sets that we haven't addressed, things we normally just look to them for. So I think that's going to push the locals especially to say, I was barely doing it before, and now you need me to do X, Y, and Z more. I've had conversations with several local emergency managers who say, can you do this for me? And they don't mean everything. They still want to be in charge of that incident. They still want to run that response. But I've had some of them say, I don't want to maintain an EOC. You have an EOC. Why do I need one? Yeah, why do you need one at a certain point? So those are discussions we're starting to have with them now. I've sent out a survey to a lot of them to follow up on when I met with them last Wednesday and basically lay out all of those different duties and say, here's everything a local emergency manager is supposed to do. Do you keep that, or is that something you could pass off to the county? So we're starting to get some towns looking at us now, and I've got probably 7 or 8 responses so far, so not a huge amount. But they've all actually gone through and really gone through each one and given me varied responses. So I'm hopeful from that we'll see a couple trends, but we are seeing calls for it, yeah.
Thank you. Any other? Thank you, appreciate the. We need to accept this formally, right? All right.
Second?
Any other comments? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
25053, approval of the 25-26 Cross Insurance Arena operational budget, capital budget, and trustees budget. James?
Thank you. Bringing forth the 25-26 Cross Insurance Arena operational budget. I will just, before I dive into the next year's budget, just want to relay that it is the 4th year now we're trending over the next month to come in the black. So the Cross Insurance Arena has been in the black for the last 4 years, and so that's great kudos to the staff and to the general manager, Michael Conte. for a job well done over there. But this evening, Mike is here to introduce you to the 25-26 budget. The 25-26 budget has gone through the Cross Insurance Arena trustees. They bring forth a full recommendation for the commissioners to approve. And I'd like to invite Mike up to the podium to go through a few slides, giving you a understanding of what the budget moving forward is. Mike?
Thank you, Jim. For anybody that doesn't know me, Mike Loconti, General Manager of the Cross Insurance Arena. I'm going to just go over some highlights. I won't read it word for word, line by line, but I just wanted to encapsulate what last season or last year was like and what we're looking for going forward into the next year. The current slide is just the highlights of the existing year. Like Jim said, we're projecting to end in the black this year. We had diversified some of our entertainment headlines with some Broadway. We had taken on a little bit more of the trade show and conferences element and did real well with those. We actually did some catering for Maine Health. It worked out really well. Nitro Circus was a motorcycle experience, and they had all the ramps and flames, and it was pretty cool. Kevin Hart was back again. We had a killer country show, and we had Fluffy, Gabriel Iglesias, a comedian, come back, and he sold out relatively quickly. So the existing framework with which we're operating in this year, projecting again to end in the black. Don't know what that number is going to be yet. All depends on how this next month shakes out with a few shows that we have that not selling gangbusters, so we're going to see how that all shakes out by the end of June. If you go to the next slide. Oh, sorry, up there. Thank you. We're looking at an increased operating income via the events. Now, what that is we're looking at the ticketing platforms. That looks at the fees that come in. It looks at any of the facility fees that are added on. So basically, when you look at the operating income for the year, we're looking at a slight increase from the previous year based on how I'm going to build the shows coming in and how we work with them and how we build them. The key is to try to keep up with cost without scaring away a promoter or an agent or an artist. And that's the balance that we have to take with every event that comes in, no matter how small or large. There's always a risk there if we don't balance it properly, and also not scare them off either. You can't build them too much, they'll go to another building, and then I lose the show. So we have to be very aware of that. Jen, if you want to go to the next slide for me. So the operating costs for the building doesn't get any cheaper. We broke the $3 million mark this existing fiscal. It's going to go up a little bit more. You're looking at staffing costs that have gone up. You're looking at the vendors that have increased. All the utilities, energy. You lump that all together, that's a 100,000 square foot building that is very expensive to maintain and to run. Technology has gotten more expensive. So our job is to mitigate that the best we can on the operating side, and that boils down to preventative maintenance, planning properly for capital, and addressing the short-term and long-term needs of the building. The building was built in 1977. We had a great upgrade in 2014, but there's still a lot of old parts of that facility that we're trying to keep up with. To offer a venue that is state-of-the-art to attract artists and talent to Portland. Next slide, please. Similarly to 24-25, if we don't garner and book additional acts on top of the historical Mariners Disney, we would end up in the red. That puts the onus on me to try to cultivate additional acts that are coming in, as well as having them come back. So we have a few shows that aren't coming back in 26, that are coming back in 27, that puts us in a position where I have to try to get additional shows to come in and work with us. I have a couple of new promoters I'm working with for this next fiscal. I have some artist reps that we're working with now, so it's imperative that we book events that are going to backfill anything that isn't coming this particular year. So we're working really hard at trying to land additional business for the facility and keep up with the expenses of that. Next slide, please. And this is just a breakdown of the, that's probably really too small for everybody to see, but that does show the bottom line of being for the 25-26, a negative of $304,000, whereas the existing year that we're in was approved last year of a negative $219,000. But again, it puts the onus on us to book additional content. It doesn't necessarily have to be concerts. It can be, again, conferences. It can be trade shows. It can be things that we've never done there before, such as the motorcycle show. So that's where we're at as far as the snapshot for the year coming up. Please, questions?
Any
Anybody
questions
have
before we go to the capital?
Where does, when you, I heard you made mention of preventative maintenance. What's your projections on that? Is how do you develop that number? I mean, just broadly.
Yeah, broadly, it is, I look at all the expenses that we incur over the past 3 years. I look at what has been the most expensive, say, filters for our HVAC system, and try to get ahead of that as previous years we might not have, to go ahead and try to get a contract with the vendor that is going to be all-inclusive for all filters and give us a significant discount on that. So the broad strokes with that is we try to address each one of our major expenses and getting ahead of those with preventative maintenance the best that we can.
And this building has been put into the contract for the asset management work that the facilities department brought to you back in the fall, I think, for an awarded bid. And so that will give a better understanding of the ongoing maintenance and troubleshooting if things arise on the assets of the arena.
Good.
Any questions on the budget or the entertainment and sports industry in general?
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, thank you.
Predict the next sellout.
Crystal ball's coming.
Yeah.
Tackle the capital now?
Yep.
Okay.
So here's the capital. What we have found that over the last number of years, we were not working through a lot of the smaller capital items. So we have a lot of deferred capital at the arena. We were really focused on the new dasher boards and glass that were put in last summer, and worked really well through the hockey season this year. However, something had to sacrifice because of that. And so we've been working, Mike and I have been working on a capital plan to bring forth that we feel as though takes care of some immediate needs while pushes off some things that we can push off a bit. Some will require bonding in future years. But I have a list here just to go through quickly. We're looking at $100,000 worth of locker rooms, particularly the showers and the bathroom areas. They need a little bit of attention. We got an overhead rolling Zamboni tunnel door, which was brought up by the fire marshal's office as a need to replace, and so that is something for us, immediate need. Desktop computers, I think Mike relayed on to me that they were working off from 2015 computers over there. And when you're dealing with AutoCAD, like many of the staff do, it takes forever for that AutoCAD drawing to boot up. Broadcast room, need to change out the AC. There's a lot of equipment up in that room that runs pretty much the arena's scoreboard and speaker system. We need to cool that off, and we need to get a mini split up there. We got a surveillance and alarm door system. That's in the budget for $10,000 to, in a sense, buy us a couple of years. It's ultimately going to be a larger ticket item, but we need to do some immediate needs, and so this will get us through the next couple of years so that we can properly plan for that. A number of years ago, we had the installation of new LED lights. We also had RGBs installed at the same time, and those are allows us to go different colors. Lighting in the arena. A lot of times, if you've been to a Mariners game, you see green and blue on the ice. That's the RGBs. Got a little need to replace the controls within those RGBs. They're failing right now, and so to get that on track, that's another $10,000. We got video control system that will allow Mike's staff to remotely move advertisement into the arena TVs in the concourses. If you've been there, there are probably 30 or 40 TVs in the concourses, and they're all individually touched right now to get the advertising going on them for a particular event. This will allow them to do it remotely.
Jim,
Yes.
so that those TVs, if we network those, that what they currently advertise, like Jim said, the upcoming events, we have menus, we have live TV broadcasts that gets piped in from the bowl. So there's various functions of each TV, and right now each person has to go to each TV. We have a total of 83 TVs throughout the entire arena. So.
Wow.
So I was a little off, 83 TVs. Next is portable bars. We have kind of split this up. The request was much higher, but we're going to pinpoint a few of the bars and replace them on a phased approach. Hockey net winches. That is the nets up behind each hockey net that kind of protects the audience from getting cleaned out by a puck. Those winches are in need of replacement because they are lifting a pretty heavy net multiple times a week. And so we need to replace those out. We have been working on the speaker system within the arena. This is a big ticket item. And we did last summer the first phase of it by changing out some mixers and some amplifiers for the speakers. Depending upon the event, the speakers sound better than other events. I guess whatever you plug into it really dictates. But this is a $50,000 tag to look at the next phase of improvements to get a better speaker system within the bowl. And then the last is club blinds. That is the Hall of Fame lounge club blinds. They are blinds like that, and when you put those type of blinds with a lot of public, they don't last all that long. And so we need to really replace them because they're in very tattered shape. So overall, we're proposing a 2025-26 capital plan of $287,500. That is through a combination of reserves, and we also bake in a small amount, I believe about $80,000 into the general fund for the cross insurance arena each year. So that's the two funding sources that these improvements will be coming out of. Just to kind of give you a sneak peek on what other items are in need up at the arena. We got an HVAC control upgrade. We got an ice deck that needs to be done. We replaced that a number of years ago. It's seeing its wear and tear because of the amount of times that we put it down and up because of the events that we have in the arena. We got some roof surfacing, and we got an AC chiller, new compressor that we have to do. Now, that's slated for 26, 27 unless things change. And then we get into the future, and that includes anywhere from a possible new concrete floor, cold floor, which is the last thing I want to hear at this point because it's a very costly and intrusive project. We also need a Zamboni down the line, a portable stage. Our stage is seeing wear and tear. Mike and I have had a lot of conversations around that. We feel that's probably another 3 or 4 years out before we have to do something. The ops staff can only put so many Band-Aids on that. Further out, 32, 33, a scoreboard. which I believe the scoreboard there was replaced my first year in the county, 9 years ago. And we're also, around that same time, looking at the other Zamboni. Nothing's really cheap over there. A lot of the things will be taken care of by either savings from a bond expiring, or reducing in cost, or future bonding. But we wanted to share, those are kind of like the next 8 to 10 years worth of capital planning for the arena. But tonight, we're looking at just over $280,000 for the next year. Mike, do you have anything more to add on that?
No, I mean, obviously the goal is, for instance, that first line item, the locker rooms. Just want to, build off what Jim was saying. So it's not just a locker room for the hockey players or for the teams that come in. Those locker rooms we convert to dressing rooms when the talent comes. So any band or artist or comedian that comes in, we basically gut those rooms and we go ahead and we rent furniture every time from Rent-A-Center, because I want new furniture for one of the artists that get here, because we want them to have a nice dressing room when they get here. We put out scatter rugs, indirect lighting. We do a whole bunch of stuff to make it look really nice. So we need to keep those rooms at a certain level. So this isn't just for hockey players. This really is to stay on top of what we can present to an artist coming in, because that's what makes or breaks the relationship with the promoter. If the band or artist goes back to the promoter and says it was a terrible experience going to Cross Arena, that gets out to Live Nation, gets out to Ticketmaster or whatnot, that artist won't come back. So this is a line item that will not only address the sports side of it, it'll address the entertainment side as well.
Any other comments or questions? Jim, is there any such a thing as a contingency account in this area so that if something really slaps you in the face, you just don't have to destroy everything else?
No.
Fair enough. Tight budget.
Can I ask, is this being pulled out of cash flow, or is the 287 being financed somehow?
It's going to be coming out of reserves and general fund budget.
Any other comments? Tom?
Because I've been involved with the arena for the last 10, 11 years. To Mike's and his staff credit when he's talking about, giving the entertainers a good show, a good time. When you get national stars like Gabriel Iglesias, who contacted him, wanted to come back to Portland, Maine. That's the kind of situation that they're doing over there. And, I've job shadowed him one night, and it's amazing what the staff goes through to make sure that everybody who walks in that building has a great time. Not only our customers, but the entertainers. Jeff Dunham, he's a vegan from way he lives, but he makes sure his staff has steak, lobster, what have you. But they come here because they have a great time.
I can't get over that, because when I was in college, we used to promote concerts, and the band always ended up with a couple of lobsters before the show, and they'd see a spread in the locker room that they thought was for them. We said, no, that's for your crew, which they can sit down. We got a fraternity that's going to set things up for you. You just tell them what to do. And they always came back because they loved it.
Anything else?
We got one last budget. This is a three-part budget, and this is the trustees' budget. The trustees' budget is a budget that takes care of things that don't get picked up in the general fund budget. Actually, it gets paid through the general fund budget, but it doesn't get broken out like this in the general fund budget. And Mike's budget, the ops budget, does not take care of it. And that is, trustees have a line item for $6,000 on professional services. Every year, around October, November, we pay a management incentive fee that is part of our management contract with OBG 360. That is going to be somewhere in the $110,000 to $120,000 range because of the great work that Mike and his staff have done that met all the benchmarks this year. And then we cover the county side of insurances for the building. And that's a full package of insurance and auto. So that all equals up to $261,000. So that in totality are the three parts of the cross-insurance arena budget.
And it amounts to a 3% increase?
Well, you really can't put a, well, I will say that the cross-insurance arena was a negative increase this year in the general fund.
Mhm.
And the general fund included.
Oh, I'm talking about their budget.
In their budget, they don't go by an increase because it's operational. It's an enterprise fund.
Fair enough.
And so he's proposing a negative at this time, but at this time, he's still looking into the crystal ball in terms of number of acts that he's going to book out over the next year to make that negative turn into a positive like he's done the last 4 years. So Mike's got a little fire in his belly, and he's got his work ahead of him over the next year.
Careful, Mike, your hair will be like mine.
Yeah.
All right, we need a vote on this, right?
Yes.
Move passes.
Second?
Any other comments? Those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Thank you, Mike, for your time.
Jim, are we going to need a vote after executive session?
No.
Then might I suggest that, to tell the public that essentially all business of the commission has probably been handled. You're certainly welcome to hear us end. Go ahead.
May I suggest that we do the comments from executive staff, county manager, and county commissioners, then go into executive session?
Fair enough. Good idea. So, Sheriff.
Actually, I don't know what else I can say.
No, just wanted to give you the opportunity.
No, one thing I was thinking when Mike Durkin was doing his plan was we used his staff to finally do a tabletop of evacuating the jail, should we ever have to do it. It's been something that we're trying to get the staff to do for about 20 years now, and we pushed it along. And actually, I like the participation that we got from outside, our staff, and Mike did a really good job of, laying out and trying to push us to do that. So publicly, thank you, Mike, and your staff for that. Hiring is hiring. Met 3 people today. As I mentioned earlier, a couple from Angola. They haven't been here very long. And it's amazing when you talk to them how many languages they can speak.
Oh, yeah.
And I struggled with English. And then an individual that from the military, et cetera. Law enforcement, we're down, depends on what you figure in. There's a grant that the DA has, so it could be a +1, depending on how the feds pay for grants and stuff. So it's kind of a wild card, but I think we're around 5. So really pleased with that. I know I approved somebody from North Carolina today that's gone everything except the medical. And the only thing between him and here is selling his house down in North Carolina. So, Commissioner, I know that report I told you about, you'll have by 1st of June. So really, that's it. I'll answer any questions.
Yeah, any questions here? Thank you.
Thanks.
Kevin. Appreciate that. Executive staff. Teresa.
Finance is still moving along. We've got the payroll, the new payroll system. We meet every week. We did not meet last week because I was on vacation along with Aaron from IT was at a conference, and our payroll person, the payroll software programming person, was not in the office because he bought a house. So the 3 all worked well that it was lined up. But as we go through step by step with the payroll, we realize how complex every little process is when we are programming this. We started meeting in October, so we meet 1 hour a week, and we are going to start piloting our smallest group, which is the cooks of 4 people on there, to try to, they kind of hit all of the shift differentials and a lot of the complex things in our system. So we're going to start doing that this week. We're going to do that in our meeting. So we're going along, and our current payroll system that we have is showing ever more problems that I'm not liking to see. So it's administratively on their side. So things are lining up really well with that. We've transitioned. One of the auditor's comment had been a little more transparency with the probate on the way that we collect revenues. And so we have implemented a new process, started last month, and so we're working out those reports and how that's going to work with being at the new building on doing the deposits and having the information with email, so we don't have to do the monies deposit and things. So we are doing a lot of upgrades on the reporting systems for accountability, and it was a pleasure to have the probate staff actually come to me and tell me how much this was, they were enjoying the upgrades to that. So instead of me actually going and being like, how's this working, they were coming to me saying how great that this has helped them. So that was one of the satisfying things last month. So we're just moving along with all of the departments and supporting them, as well with the expansion of finance. We're just having more and more coming our way. So the more we help out and do that, the more that's coming in with grant support and working with Sandy for the CFA audit, where she just did a fantastic spreadsheet to kind of do the subrecipients, so it's a little cleaner when we do the auditing process. So everything's working very well within all of the departments. So.
Any questions? No? David?
Donald?
No?
Thank you.
Catherine? Amy?
We're still plugging along on the negotiations. We have a tentative agreement with the Teamsters Corrections Unit. We're compiling, just because you get a TA, you have to do follow-up paperwork and breadline the documents. We're working on that right now, so the union can take that to a vote. We're in mediation. We'll have our second session with a mediator next week with NECU Corrections. And then I'm going to be talking with you the other 2 agreements in the executive session. Hiring, we're still putting a ton of effort for hiring across the board. Corrections, we've lost some, but some due to transfers into other units. So to date, we've hired 30 correction officers since the beginning of the year. We currently have 12 in the last stage of the hiring process, which is the post-offer physical. So, fingers crossed that, 8 or 9 come out of that. All of them would be great, but the trend is probably about 90%. And then we have 56 in the entire hiring process actively involved. So our numbers are looking really good for corrections. And then working with law enforcement, they're 5 down, like the sheriff had said. So that's what we've been spending a lot of time doing.
Questions? No? Alex?
Just in the past week, Northport has started to shift from the, when are we going to get to move into this building, into, oh boy, we need to get ready to move into this building. So we've really started shifting gears in terms of setting up mechanisms and starting to really, figure out exactly how things are going to work and how we're going to get everyone transferred over as efficiently as possible with as little disruption as possible. Looking pretty good so far on that front, and we are very, very, very close to the finish line. And in spite of some of the struggles to get to that end result, it is coming together quite nicely, so.
So the projection is?
2 to 4
Don't want
weeks.
to jinx it.
Fair
The
enough.
July meeting, maybe? For us?
Haven't given up on June meeting yet.
And that's what I was going to touch upon. Right now, we're slated to have the June 23rd meeting at the new building.
Oh, wow.
We'll see, but I think we'll probably wait until about the 10th, somewhere in the 10th of June, and we'll have to make a decision one way or the other, just so that we can make sure that the public notice goes out and people know that we've actually moved venues. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Maybe we don't want to tell them the 26th?
Jim, do you have anything else?
No, I don't, thank you.
Commissioners?
I have a question for Jim before we get to
Uh-oh.
commissioners.
Okay.
You said June 23rd?
It's actually the 19th.
What's that?
June, that's not the meeting date.
Yeah, the meeting date's June 16th for the county commission. I just need to know, because I have to get on a ferry the next
third
morning
Monday
to go
is
to
the
Montegan.
The third Monday, I didn't see the second being the first Monday. You're right, I'm sorry, June 16th.
Okay.
So we'll
good,
probably have
great.
to make the decision a little earlier than that.
Okay.
We might be back in this room.
You had me.
That's why I
like,
said
oh,
July.
Did I screw
That's my
something up?
bet.
Yeah.
Thank you. And yes, it's
All
a,
around July.
I think we've tested this, this room does not fit the public all that well in it.
no, I
How big is the new one?
It
It's
can-
longer.
Yeah, it can go to basically twice the size of this if we open
Yeah.
up the screen.
Yeah.
And yes, Commissioner?
Nothing else?
No, I'm good.
Yes.
Yes, what?
Commissioner report?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what that's what I was starting with. You interrupted me.
All right.
James?
Don't have too much to say, except I had the pleasure of attending the regionals for the Special Olympics last week. There must have been, there certainly was more than 1,000 people at Bonnie Eagle athletic fields doing their thing. Several, well, probably 6 or 7 hours of competition, various heats, and et cetera. And they're all qualifying for the state Special Olympics, which will be in a couple of weeks. And they all stay over at the dorms in Orono. And there's a combination of both full days, 2.5 really full days of athletic competition, as well as a variety of things like a parade, and there's a big dance, and there's the unparalleled thrill of being in a college dorm for a couple of days. So that was, but it was really something to see. Frankly, other parts of the state than around here have a more advanced Special Olympics setup and structure and support. But that is starting to develop as well here in southern Maine. There is now a, what they call a community team, which is not associated with a particular, for instance, structured day program or a school. It's actually just athletes who want to be on a team, and there's a lot more practice, a lot more training, and so it's really substantially different over the last couple of years than it had been for decades. So that was something to me spectacular. Other than that, I'm certainly glad that spring has arrived. Pretty sick of struggling with the shovels and stuff. So, and that's it.
Thank you.
I'm going to talk briefly. I won't go
I
on
was
real
gonna leave you
long.
till last.
Oh, you were?
No.
Whatever. You look at me. Steve and I have been in meetings together all day long, I want you to know. Legislative Policy Committee. As you know, or you may not know, I got thrown into the fire with that one right off the bat, being a co-chair with Steve for the state. commissioners. I have loved every minute of it. It's been very interesting. What's a little frightening is I worked for the Maine Department of Labor as the Assistant Commissioner in charge of legislative affairs almost 40 years ago. Things haven't changed a bit in the legislature. There's still, 8 million bills, and no one knows who's on first and who's on second, and they wait till the last minute to do everything, but, oh well, that's the way it is. The biggest thing we
Tom,
worked
why
on.
are you chuckling?
I know, I'm looking right at Tom. So things have not changed, Tom.
There's real time and there's legislative time.
Yes,
They're not even on the same clock.
Exactly, and I'm not sure where their minds are half the time either, but that's okay. I didn't say that. Jail funding has been huge. The really good thing about this year, from what I understand, is as a committee, as a legislative group, it's a great group of commissioners and administrators and whomever from sheriff, well, I was gonna say, from all over the state. We meet once a week to go over the legislation. And we've started to work way more closely with the Maine sheriffs, and with the Maine municipal. So everyone's sort of rowing in the same direction, which I guess has been a little bit different than in past years. Steve knows more about that. But to go back to the jail funding, that's really been the major impetus. And as of this minute, could change, so it looks like we're going to have a $20 million, the base, which came out in the first, whatever they call it, before they go into special session. The governor's office has put forward $4 million for MAT. Treatment. They have advised or suggested or put forward another $4 million above that, but that's going to make it through appropriations, and this year is like, who the heck knows. It's better than nothing, but we've also got some momentum going on setting a goal of 30 to 35% in future of the state mandates, the state needs to pay for, because the issue is the state being the legislature, keeps making all these rules. Well, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, but there's no money. And it's like, excuse me. So we end up passing it along to property taxes, which is not good, because property taxes are regressive. We don't wanna be doing that. But we've been successful so far, and I'm not sure how far it got, and you can chime in here. More fees for the Registry of Deeds, did that all get passed? I think it did, yes. So just there's little things like that too.
It's still got to go to approach, right?
Yes, well, like everything, it's got to go to appropriations and whatever. But it's been a very interesting year for me, and learning more about the county operations and how that works with the state. So stay tuned, we'll let you know. One thing I would like to make a big ask of all of you is if you have any legislative connections, I'm looking at Tom, I'm looking at all of you, get on the phone and say, hey, look, the jails, we need money, they need to be funded, this is crazy. And keep them abreast of what's going on, at least with that, all right? So if you would do that, that would be great. That's it.
Add a couple of pieces to what the commissioner has indicated. What the budget looked like for all jails was around $140 million for the state. And this is, we're well shy of that even with this kind of funding. What that means is that additional funding, in theory, falls right back on top of the municipalities, because the only other source of funds that we have are property tax. So the legislature's got a hot potato in their hands, and they're beginning to realize it. I can't say enough for what that committee has done. As Commissioner mentioned, it's working well together. The sheriffs are really pulling together with us
and us with them, in fact. In fact, we've gone after some of the bills that they haven't ever had our support on before, meaning the commissioners. And so the legislature is beginning to see that there is a connection there, and we're starting to have value in what we say versus what others are indicating. So, thank you very much. Tom?
Yeah, I had the privilege last week, a couple weeks ago, Jim and I went up to Naples, and they were having a housing seminar, the same one we received here. There was at least 30, 35 people showed up. I was surprised how many came in. And it was, well-spoken, and a lot of people understood, but they didn't understand what the real needs were.
Right.
So that was interesting. It was a good night, and I was, to say again, surprised at how many came up there. The number of people that are coming in here tonight and listening, to all the presentations and what have you. It's obvious, as the sheriff said, there's a little misinformation out there. I think we're doing our job very well. There are certain things we just have to do, but if you got the right paperwork, it is what it is, and you got to work through it. So, but whether we need to have a subcommittee or not, I'm not sure, because we are doing what needs to be done, and there's obviously some of those who don't believe it, but they never will. So I've been through those situations before, and you can't convince them.
Hear you.
That's it.
Well, I have no comment this evening, and I will just say have a happy Memorial Day weekend.
I am surprised. I'll follow up and second what the Commissioner has said. I don't have much because it has been expressed. The only issue that we have, or I have, is this request that they have a meeting with some of the commissioners, and I think I'd like you to think about it for a day or so, and then I'll send out an email on something and see what your thoughts are after having slept on it overnight. The information was impactful that they brought forth. There was roughly, all with counting us and so forth, there's roughly 24 people that were in the conversation directly. So that there is a concern out there that they have. And as the Commissioner mentioned, all information isn't correct.
So it does occur to me that, there were some elements, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, Sheriff, I thought you made a very strong presentation tonight. I really appreciated that. There was an element, as Tom has kind of alluded to a little bit here, of what I would think of as unlawful resistance of, if you can imagine what that might comprise, then it wouldn't be particularly good. But there may be some softer collaboration that would be worth discussing. So I don't need to wonder about it very much to say that I think it probably would be constructive to at least talk.
Yeah.
Well, think about that, and we'll make that decision then. Other than that, unless others have questions of anybody else that we haven't touched base with, I think I will ask that we close this part of the meeting and go into executive session. As such, I'd like a motion to enter into executive session in accordance with Title I, MRSA, paragraph 405, 6D.
So moved.
Second?
I have a vote. Those in favor? So we are now in executive session at 8:10.